Good afternoon, everyone. This is Michael Wirth with Wirth Your Wild Leather. Today I am going to be making a custom pistol belt Western rig. Going to be making one of these here. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Michael Wirth with Wirth Your Wild Leather. Today. Alright, you're going to have to forgive me a little bit for some of the technical issues. This is my first live stream on a leather project, so I'm going to be fumbling along. If you'll just please bear with me. If nothing else, you can poke fun at me in the comments section. As you bear with me through some of my camera work, I'm going to have to adjust the camera here and there manually, so you'll just have to bear with me on that. I'm operating with one camera. But I've been doing leather work for almost 2 years now, and I feel, getting decent at it. And I had an order come in for a leather Western pistol belt with bullet loops for this individual's son for a Christmas gift. I love these types of gifts because it really makes that person feel special when they get something custom made. And when they appreciate the work, it makes my job so much easier, and I enjoy doing it so much. The pistol that the individual has actually happens to be the same one that I own, so that makes it easy. Whenever you're dealing with firearms, always make sure that they're not loaded. I've checked this one many of times already this morning to make sure that it's not loaded. And we will get back to this portion of it later when we have to do the pattern up for the actual holster itself. This first part, we're going to be working on the belt and getting the belt adjusted right first. One of the things that makes this project custom is the fact that he wanted his son's name laser engraved into the back of the pistol belt. I've done that here. I would have showed a video of that, but my laser that I use here at my house is so slow that this literally, just engraving that name on there, took a little over an hour. Not something that I figured people would be that interested in watching in, at least for now. We can save the laser episode for another time. Some of the noises that you might hear in here is my daughter. She's next door to my shop. She has her own little custom project that she's working on right now. And so there might be some banging or clanking around or whatever. Pay no attention to it. I don't pay attention to my daughter either.
Thank you.
Love you, Pumpkin.
Love you too.
But, no, for starters, what we need to do is we need to get a waist measurement of this individual, and I received the email with all the measurements that I needed for it. When you're taking measurements for stuff like this, don't go off of an individual's pant size. Pant sizes and what actual waist sizes are not the same thing. I've done many of belts that have came up short because somebody gave me their pant size instead of their waist measurement. I'm sure there's a formula out there to figure it out. I just haven't taken the time to do that yet because I measure. Soft tape measure. Most indispensable tool that I have in my shop. I cannot live without this thing. This belt here is going to be 35.5 inches long from tip to tip. Now, I said that I was making this for a younger gentleman or whatever. That does not mean he has a 35-inch waist. That is just the length of the belt. You've seen the Western rigs where they overlap a little bit, then they have the belt buckle and the belt strap that goes over the top. That is what we're going to work on a little bit here as well. But first, we have the belt strap And right now, this is just a strap of leather that has somebody's name laser engraved on it. What we're going to do is we're going to soften up the corners just a little bit. And then we're also going to edge bevel the sides of it. And it just gives it a little bit more of a cleaner look. So, with that, as I use these my tools to do do the work here, I'm going to explain a little bit about the tools. Leather working, though there is thousands of dollars of tools that can be bought for a project, it also comes down to some of the simplest tools that you need. Utility knife. I got this at Harbor Freight. I think I paid like $1.50 for it. To round off these corners here, all that we really need to round off the corners is reach into your pocket, grab a quarter, adjust this camera down. Sorry about the lack of zoom. I'll try and do my best. Put the corner on the edge here. And I need my little scratch-all, which is a little tool that I like to lose all the time. Little scratch-all. That's all it is. You can get them at Walmart. You can get them at Harbor Freight. They're all over the place. Put your quarter to where it lines up around the edges there, both the left side and the right side. Make a mark around there. Do it on all four corners. Spin the belt around. Make your mark. There you go. You won't be able to see it on camera, but I can see it plainly. I have a nice clean even mark around that corner, and all that I'm doing is rounding off the corners of this strap here. They make tools that do it, and they're really good tools. However, they can be kind of expensive when you buy all the different sizes. Just take your utility knife and follow the mark. Trace it once with no pressure. Gives you a groove that your knife will follow for the following passes. If you have to press hard when you're working on leather, you are doing it wrong. You should not have to press very hard to get your cuts. Make multiple passes and your cuts come out nice and clean. If you press hard, it's very easy to make a mistake. And then you got to start over. Nothing hurts more than when you're almost finished with a project and you get in a rush and make a mistake and have to start over. Got a couple of people watching. Hello. Appreciate you stopping in. If you like the content, feel free to leave a comment. Hit the like button. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to ask, and I will do my best to answer in the chat. Alright, we got the corners rounded. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bevel the edges. Edge bevelers. All that these do is they kind of knock off the rough edge around the side of the leather. They come in many different sizes. I think like 0 through 9. If you're using a 9, you're taking off a chunk of leather. This one right here is a number 1. All that I'm doing is I'm just knocking off the rough edge of the leather with this piece. That's it. Pick you a spot. Put your beveler on there. And run it around. All that it does is knocks the rough edge off the leather. When you're using number 1, you could actually probably get by with just slicking the sides and accomplish the same thing. The leather that I'm using today, it's a thin veg tan. It is actually a 4-ounce veg tan, which is very thin leather. And it's great for shaping and taking forms. But here in a little bit, we will get to where I actually double this piece up. So what was 4 will now become 8. And 8 makes for an excellent belt. One of the problems I'm running into right now is with this being so thin, the edge beveler is not wanting to catch the edge. So to fix that little problem, all that you do is you take a nice little piece of scrap leather, throw it up there so you kind of raise it off the side just a little bit, and now your edge beveler will work. When you're edge beveling, you should see like a little shoelace piece of leather being carved off of your project. That is that rough edge I'm talking about to get rid of. Hello, Worth Your While Homestead. Glad you had a chance to stop in and see me. Feel free to leave a like if you like the content. If not, leave a thumbs down. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. Sometimes when you're using this #1 edge beveler, it can be a little bit of a pain to keep it running true because it's such a small cut that it doesn't always want to do its job. These projects that I'm going to be doing everything from pistol holsters to regular belts, dress belts, wallets, purses, handbags, just all the different stuff that I have learned to make. And if you join me for all these, I will gladly answer any questions that I can about leatherworking that I've had to learn. Some of it's been the hard way through ruined projects. And I'm not so much doing these videos as a how-to, because there are plenty of videos out there that show you how to do something. In fact, before making this belt, I watched 4 of them. So, these are not so much a how-to, I like to call them a how-come, while doing a how-to. Okay, so, we've beveled the edge of the pistol belt. Now, what we need to do is we need to cut our strap for the belt buckle. I'm using a bronze colored belt buckle, and these are easy enough to do. Hold on one second, sorry. Are you next door still, Shelby?
Nope.
Sorry, folks. It's going to be just a second here. Going to turn the sound off for 1 minute. Alright, sorry about that, folks. Slight interruption. Had a major teenage crisis on my hands. Had to get that fixed. The strap that I'm cutting for the buckle, this is the prime reason why you don't ever throw away your straps. You always keep your straps or your scraps, not your straps, because they can always be used for something. Generally, that really isn't good for much of anything other than a strap. An incredibly short one, but that's kind of what we need. I've already measured this off, and now I just got to square it up. Simply use square, put it up there, square it off. Nice and simple. Okay, from there, our buckle. The strap fits through the buckle nice and even. What you need to do is take about 2 inches or so for the fold over, and that's to secure the buckle. Once you have done that, then you can make your marks for where the studs are going to go that's going to lock this fold over in. This is an 1.5 inch wide strap. So, to find the center, you cut 1.5 inches by half, and that gives you 3/4. At the 3/4 mark, I put a dot all the way through it, and I always like going with 2 studs. So, make sure I got the room. 3/4 of an inch. Another hole all the way through. From there, all that we got to do is we got to punch those holes out. They've already been marked all the way through, and then we got to punch a hole out for the tongue of the buckle. Easy enough. I gotta find my tool. I do a lot of work while I'm out and about as well, so I have a couple of spots that I put my tools, and sometimes it causes problems by not knowing where they're all at any given time. Found it. Hole punch. They come in several different sizes. I got some up in here. These ones here I got at Harbor Freight. You can buy a set of gasket punches. That's what that is. A whole set for gaskets of many different sizes, and they will actually cut through leather just as well as a hole punch will. These hole punches cost about $7 a piece, And you can buy a whole set from Harbor Freight of gasket punches for like $6 for the set. So, just something to keep in mind while you're doing your project. When you're hammering on your tools, you want to use some sort of a dead blow hammer. Once again, Harbor Freight, like $2, $3, no big deal. Now, sorry for the camera adjustment, but I have to go over to where I hammer on projects. It's a sturdier board and I get a better cut. It's over here. Simple enough. Place it down. Move that out of the way. One hole. Two holes. And then that one is a little bit wider of a tongue, so I'm going to have to use. These are little die cutters that I ordered off of Etsy. Once again, all these tools can be bought individually from the leather stores. However, if you shop around a little bit, you can find substitutes that work just as well for a fraction of the cost. Not saying that those other tools are not worth the money. They are. However, if you can find a substitute, why spend more if you don't have to? Using those tools there, you can see that I have already got my strap pretty much set for putting the buckle. Once I hammer the rivets into place, that is what the buckle's going to look like. Nice little setup already, isn't it? Not very hard. Now, the individual ordering this wanted this dyed, so the color that he wants is it's like it comes out like a chocolate brown. The actual color of it is antique brown. When you're dyeing, want to put something down under your table. And I have picked up these little lidded trays. It's tight enough that the dye doesn't dry out while it's in there. And I don't have to worry about trying to overflow the dye out of the little jug. I'm using a EcoFlow antique gel in the dark brown. Try getting a little brush in that little hole. Not going to work. And if you pour it, dyeing leather is a lot like staining wood for you woodworkers out there. And if you put too much in one spot and can't get it off fast enough, you're going to have a darker spot in others. Also, while doing this, find my brushes here. They have managed to disappear. Alrighty. Found one. These little brushes here are just 1-inch foam brushes. You can get these at Walmart or I don't know, wherever. You can buy them in a pack of 25 for like $5, I think. They work wonders. As long as you are dyeing the same color, they are reusable. This antique gel, there's several different ways of putting it on. I put it on dry leather. Put a nice healthy coat on it. Both front and back. And then also get the side. You'll always want to dye after you're finished cutting, but before you sew. That way, if your stitch is part of the design, your stitching will still show up nice and pretty. If you try dyeing after it's stitched and put together, you're going to color your stitching and it just doesn't look as good. Alright, now I got both sides of that done. Now what I do when I'm dyeing is I will take a shop cloth, fold it up, dab it in a little bit of water, and run it over it. And by doing that, I'm taking some of the excess dye off. Do it both front and back. By taking the excess dye off, you don't have to worry about when the individual gets a little sweaty or whatever, that sweat runs down and loosens up that dye, and pretty soon you have stained somebody's cowboy outfit. Not good news. Bad for business. And that is a nice chocolate colored strap. Now this end of the strap, we can do many things with it. We can round it off. We could put an English point on there. We could decorate it up just a little bit. We will come back to that here in a minute. First, I am going to attach the buckle to this strap by using rivets. I'm only going to do the one because I still need to make the belt keeper for the other portion. But that will secure the strap in place. Looking for my bag of tools. My little bag of tools. Don't have much in there, but when you're doing the projects the way I do, you don't need a whole lot. Hey, give me 1 second and I'll turn the sound back on. I'm sorry for these interruptions, but I got a couple things going on I got to tend to. All right, folks. Sorry for the interruption again. Crisis diverted. And now we are going to move on to setting the rivet. These are decorative rivets, so it takes a different type of rivet setter. See if I got it over here or if I got to go looking for it. No, why would my tool be where I thought it was? Alright. So, looking for my rivet setter. Actually, I know what I'll do. I am going to go with a different rivet. That will look just as good. That setter I have right here. So, back over this way. Make some room. My shop out here is actually pretty small, so I got a lot of jockeying around that I gotta tend to. Those, one of these. Okay. That rivet is set. That buckle will no longer come out. So, we got our buckle done. We'll set that down over here for now. Clean up just a little bit. Actually, I do need that buckle. The buckle on the cowboy rig, it doesn't have to be stitched all the way. It doesn't have to get stitched all the way down here. In fact, most of them are loose and only stitched a little bit. So for measurements, still, you want the buckle to line up with the edge of the belt. That will tell me how much buckle I got that I can use for the overlap. I know from the waist measurement that I have about a 2-inch overlap on this end, which is fine. So that means my stitching has to stop at least 2 inches from the end of the belt. So that gives me plenty to do up any type of design that I want for this or anything. What I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to put a nice simple English point on it. This is a template that has the English points for different widths of straps. I'm going to find the one that's 1.5 inches. And I am going to mark it. And then cut it. Once again, they make a tool that does this whole thing with just one punch. But it's a little bit more of an expensive tool. And my shop is still in the process of growing. Eventually I will have these tools. But until then, I can get by with minimal tools and just a little bit more work. And there we have a nice English point. from the measurements on where they want the bullet loops at. Check my email right quick. For the correct measurement. All right. That is 8 inches. What did I do with my soft strap measuring tape? There we go. 8 inches. Holster's going to sit right about there. Huh. Alright, this strap is getting a whole bunch shorter because I need to put bullet loops in here. And I do not have enough room. Where'd my template go? When you're making these for an adult, you have a whole lot more room to put this stuff together. When you're making them for a young person or a smaller person, you don't end up with a whole lot of room for these things. So that is getting put there. I should probably darken up that edge. Simple enough. Take my cloth, rub it down, and there we go. Let's go ahead and knock out the belt keeper right quick while we're at it. Never throw away a scrap. This piece right here will not fit in between my 2 rivet holes, so I need to cut it down. But this is going to be a belt keeper for the strap that comes through. Strap cutter. This is one of the tools that you need to buy. You can always use a square or a ruler or something like that, but that takes a whole lot of time. I am cutting this piece here to a 1/2 inch belt keeper, 1/2 inch wide. Push it through, pull it tight. That is a 1/2 inch strap right there. This tool, when you're making leashes or belts, saves you so much time. Put your keeper in. Fold it over. Mark it or cut it now, either way, doesn't matter. Who's the second person watching the video? Step into the chat, say hello. I want to say hi to everybody that's watching. Leatherworking takes time. It is something that you got to have the patience for. You got to dye your strap or your belt keeper, same color as your strap. Get my scrap up here. I've tried dyeing these things all kinds of different ways, and basically what it comes down to is put on a pair of rubber gloves and just get messy. From here, this ain't going to make a very good belt keeper until it's secure. They have little staples that you can use and all that stuff to staple it together. I don't use staples. I turn around and put a stitching in there. I use artificial sinew that has a 70-pound test per stitch. Just punch me a couple of stitch holes right quick. That's a little pricking iron. They come in many different hole setups. That one there was a 2-hole punch. I also have a 4-hole punch. The 2 holes great for when you're turning corners or having to punch your holes in corners. The 4-hole is great for when you got to cover a long straight distance. They also have 6 holes, 7, 8. They all have their uses, but I have found that it really doesn't take up much more time using a 4-hole than it does with the 6 or anything like that. Eventually I'll get more of those tools, but right now, not really a need. I can accomplish all my projects with the tools that I have. The needle that I'm using, it's nothing more than a curved needle. For when I'm doing these types of stitches here, the curved needle, I can kind of get in there a little bit better. Does anybody have any questions so far? If not, we'll carry on. And that is it for that stitching. Let's see here. Little piece of thread snip. Cut it. Lighter. Singes the ends of the thread down. Mash them flat. That ain't going anywhere. Put my belt loop on. Put my belt loop on. Got it lined up. Head back over here. Punch in my other rivet. And there is the belt buckle to the pistol belt. Moving on more to the pistol belt. We need to put bullet loops in here. A couple of different ways of doing it. You can turn around, take you a piece of leather, stitch it down, put a bullet in, roll it around, stitch it down. That way will work. However, by doing it that way there, what's going to end up happening is wherever those bullet loops are, for as long as they run, that leather is going to want to fold. I found that out on a recent project, and though the person's satisfied with it, that was one of the comments that I should look into. I have since found a different way of doing it. And what we're going to do is we're going to go with that route. I have a little die cutter over here. That this die cutter cuts out a real small hole. And this pistol belt is for a 22. So my bullet loops really don't need to be that wide or that big. So what I'm doing is I am marking where the first one's going to go. And then from there, we are going to just mark 6 other bullet loops. 6 shooter, 6 bullets. Take the square, measure how far apart they need to be. I am going to make them roughly a 1/4 inch apart. But in that 1/4 inch, I have to mark with the die. So they're actually closer to about a 1/2 inch apart, minus the 1/4 inch for the die cutter. By using my square along there, I am able to keep them all evenly spaced. I have six bullet loops ready to cut out for this side of the belt, and they wanted 6 more for this other side. So, back over here to the pounding board, you do a lot of back and forth over here. Line up on the marks that I made. And hit it. 6 bullet loops. From there, we need a mold, 22 bullet, and I can see that I need to work on making my stuff just a little bit straighter. Okay, that's going to work out nice. So, what we do is we put our first one through, and we're going to go ahead and mark that because I'm going to plug that up with a rivet to get that to stay in place. Oh, almost forgot. That wouldn't have looked very professional. You know those little mistakes that I talked about earlier? I almost made one and almost made a big one. We have this this length of leather here that I was getting ready to set a rivet into in a strap, but the person that ordered this wanted it that chocolate brown color. I almost forgot to dye it before applying all the straps. You cut all your pieces, dye them, glue them, stitch them. There's actually a little order to it. You don't have to follow the order, but your products will look a lot better if you follow that order. I love these gloves. Keeps me from dyeing myself. Seeing that I'm going to be dyeing this piece here, I'm adding more of my dye. That way I don't have to stop in the middle of it. Back in the beginning I told you about what happens when you don't dye or stain evenly. This would have been a prime example. So just slather it on there. Now, seeing that I'm going to be adding a second piece to this, I am not going to dye the back of this piece here. Just like I am not going to dye the front of the other piece. It's a waste of dye because those pieces will never be seen. Or those sides. Move it down. More dye. I talked about laser engraving the individual's name on here, but yet I've also talked about cost-saving methods and everything. Lasers, at least the small hobby lasers, are actually relatively inexpensive. For just a couple $100, you can get a laser that is perfectly capable of engraving leather in just about any design that you're able to program it into. Make sure you get those holes really good, because at this point, any portion that's not dyed but still visible will stick out like a sore thumb. Now I add a little bit of water to my rag and I wipe it down again. Get rid of that piece because I don't need it. And the beautiful thing about dyeing your own leather is you can buy leather pre-dyed. But when you dye it yourself, you end up with a texture to your dye. Like any flaws in the skin of the leather, I don't know if it can be seen on camera. Any flaws like that little crinkle right here, right there, all that stuff gets brought out and it just adds a classic detail to your piece. That is stuff that you will not get when you buy your leather pre-dyed. You won't get the little wrinkle marks in the skin, the little flaws that are there. I'm not saying that some people want a full brand, burn brand from the cow on there, but a little scar here or there from where the cow rubbed up against a fence or something like that, that just adds so much character and detail to the piece that you're doing. And now I need to apply dye to the bullet loop holder. Also, you want to use gloves when you're dyeing, because if you don't, your fingerprints can be imprinted into the leather. And I'm not talking about like forensics or anything like that. I'm talking literally your thumbprint is now a piece of that leather. And some people doesn't want it biologically tagged from you. They want your work, but they don't need your thumbprint signature labeling it. Alright, now that that piece is done, I'm going to put my rivet in. Ow. When you're putting rivets in, just a little safety tip, you may want to watch where your finger is. I just managed to pinch my finger as I slam that rivet down. That hurt. Yes, go ahead and laugh at me in the chat. It's great. I appreciate it. And I walked off camera without adjusting the camera. I apologize. Next, we take our strap. We got it riveted on the inside, loop through one time. We're going to bring that loop back through. Through the hole, cinch it down. Apply our mold. And pull it tight. Alrighty. Like so. And then we're going to bring it back up through the next one. Back down. Apply another mold. They're bullets, I call them molds, because we are still molding the leather using the bullets. Pull it tight. Move on to the next one. With this leather being this thin, it's going to distort just a little bit, but once you're finished, see how it starts coming together? Every once in a while you have to tighten it up. Back through the same hole to where you're forming your loop. Got 5 people watching. Thank you for joining me. Have any questions, please drop in the chat. Hit the like button if you like the content. And they're slowly coming along. Alrighty. Pulling through. And then we are almost finished with this first set of loops. And it looks like I done that piece to just about perfect, which is really going to be funny when I come up just a little bit short and I have to redo all these. Alrighty, lovely folks, and for my first stream, doing this piece here, I've discovered that I have already made a slight mess up. So, I am not going to use that piece. And we're gonna get to start over. Alrighty, so what happened there was when I was measuring out the bullet loops, I used a small die cutter to cut out the loops. However, I did not measure how long the 22 bullet was. I thought that I'd get away with it, but some of these are too large, and if you put the bullet through the loop, it will actually try sucking out through the back, and it also wasn't looking very uniformed up front. I am not going to give somebody a product that has flaws in it. So, though that was a slight mess up, it is not a major catastrophe because this is nothing more than a strap. I am going to need more strap for my belt loops. This has already been dyed. So, like Bob Ross would say, this was just a happy accident. This piece will continue to get used, but I need to cut another strap, and then the laser engraving will be done off camera once I'm finished. Strap cutter. Piece of leather. I've already adjusted the strap to the proper length. And we are off to the races. Anybody that tells you that they've never made a mistake with leather is lying. I am actually going to need two straps, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the second one now while I'm dealing with it. Alrighty. If this was just simply my piece, I could get along with that. However, this is for a client, and I will not sell a majorly flawed item to a client knowing that it's doomed to fail. One of the nice things about still holding on to the strap, though, is I don't have to go through all the time of getting my measurements, because I already have them right here on this piece. I put it up and I can cut them out. There's a bunch of videos out there that show you how to make different stuff. Out of all those videos, have you ever seen somebody start over in the middle of a project? Well, now you have. Okay, same size as the other strap, just hasn't been dyed, and also the bullet loops haven't been cut out. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get my die going again. Laser engraving. The name will be done off camera because it takes a little while and this video is already running a little bit longer than what it should, so I am going to speed things up just a little bit. A little less talky, a little more worky. Out of everybody watching, anybody have any questions, complaints, gripes, things I should do better? Any suggestions for the next video? If so, hold on one second. Sorry, teenage drama, crisis diverted. Okay. I can now get rid of that, get rid of that. Wipe this down. Oh, need to apply some more water. Sounds like we just had another crisis next door. Alright, we are almost back to where we were before I made my mistake. Or my happy accident, as Bob Ross would say. So, what we're going to move on to now is we have to set the placement of the belt buckle. I have to find a different die than the one that I was using. Like I said, I got this little die set off of Etsy. They make all these in individual punches. However, you will spend a small fortune on them. What I've done right there is I've compared the size of the 22 shell to my die this time. That way, when I make these punch outs, they will be more tighter on the shell itself. Using the square, I'm going to go 1/4 inch down from the edge, make my first mark, and then I'm going to put the 1/2 inch mark lined up with the edge of where that round would go. Make my next mark. People watching, I appreciate you spending your time with me. I know that this is long. This is going to make a little boy's Christmas just a little bit more special. Ow. Once again, not that I didn't learn my lesson from last time, make sure your fingers are clear of pinch points. Because if you don't, it will bite you. I made all those marks over there. That way when I come over here to the pounding board, I can line everything up. And sometimes it still wants to fight you. Ow. That ow wasn't a pinch point. I actually smacked my finger that time. And I left camera again without turning it. I apologize, people. I need to get better at this YouTubing thing. So feel free to make a comment about whatever you'd like to see. Where'd my happy little mistake go? Here it is. We're now going to cut that strap. And that die right there is roughly a ½ inch. So we are going to make this roughly less than a ½ inch. This is why you never throw your straps or your scraps away. They can always be reused for something, even if you don't know what. I don't know how many times I've gone to my scrap bin for something. Once again, we're going to poke a little hole, put a little rivet. Over here. Ow. You know, I have smacked myself more times doing this video than I have the whole time I've worked leather. Alright, now Now we're cooking with gas. Yeah, see, that's already looking much better. Sometimes you just gotta restart. Pull that bullet tight. Start your next loop. Put your next bullet in. Pull it tight. There we go. See how that's looking so much better than the last one. I'm sorry. Looking a lot better than the last one already. Now, depending upon how many bullets you're putting in, kind of depends upon the spacing and also how you handle this leather. If you're putting in a lot of bullets and you're needing that spacing tight, you need to dampen the strap just a little bit. That way, it goes in to your through just a whole lot easier. There we go. You gotta keep making sure that your strap is tight on those bullets. Otherwise your loop will loosen. And then you end up with a bullet that wants to fall out instead of being carried right. Make our mark. Punch our hole. Place in the rivet. removing that shell for safety. Place that shell back in. And work that leather just a little bit. And now you end up with your bullet loops. Riveted down there nicely. There you go. Now, the customer wanted 2 sets of 6 bullet loops placed in there. There's 1 set. Belt buckle will go there. And now we got to find out where we're going to do the other set. The young man's waist size was the young man's waist size was 31 3/4 inches. So, taking my soft tape measure, measure out 31 3/4. That's his waist size. So, that is going to be where the strap is at for the buckle. So I can make a mark right there because it will be covered up. He still has a couple of inches of overlap. And now I measure from where that mark is to the beginning of where the shells are going to be. And that is at the 4-inch mark. By measuring it like this, what I am doing is I am keeping the bullet loops evenly placed on both sides of his waist so he can get to them. Going a 1/4 inch down. Mark it. ½ inch over. Inch down, mark it. Alrighty, now we're back over to pounding out the holes. Yeah, helps when you use the right side of the die cutter. Come on. Went through that time, didn't you? Alright. One bad thing about using the die cutter like that is if it's not cleaned out properly, constantly, eventually the buildup inside there will keep from ejecting, and it won't let you finish your punch completely. That was a problem I started to run into there. Make my mark. Back over, punch out my hole. Set the rivet. Oh, excuse me. Alright, and now we're back to making the bullet loops. Pull my molds out. And start on this side. Thanks, Gary. If you guys are liking the stream, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm going to be doing many more videos. Some of them will be just videos that I upload. Some of them are going to be live stream. If people like the content or have a project that they'd like to see done, leave a comment below and we'll see what we can do. Right now this belt is still very thin leather because I haven't put the other piece on there. The other piece will sandwich all these stitching and loops, and that will be like a final setting on them because it will not be able to go anywhere after that. Sorry. Like I said in the beginning, leatherworking videos can be long. I do leatherwork and I watch leatherworking videos, and there's been many a times that I have dozed off in the middle of learning something. I appreciate the patience that people have had, stayed with me. We are getting close. Ow. I cannot tell you folks enough on how important it is to watch your fingers. Alright, we got our bullet loops in place. We got our buckle cut. Our buckle is set, or is ready made. Now we need the strap that's going to be from here that overlaps, that connects to the buckle. For that, we need to find that happy accident again, which I threw somewhere. Where'd my happy accident go? Hold on, folks. Sorry for the interruption. Taking the sound off. Alright, sorry about that, folks. Another teenage crisis. For those of you that don't have teenagers, want one? Um, for those of you that do have teenagers, I'm sorry. Alright, making the strap for the other end of the belt. To do that, I just took my happy accident that was already dyed, cutting an English point on it. Cutting 2 English points on it, actually. Gonna have to get that dyed. Almost forgot to put on my gloves. Amazingly, leather is just skin. So, this dye is made for dyeing leather. Is the sound on now? Hopefully the sound's on. Is the sound on? Yeah, sound's back on. Alright. Sorry about that. But, with leather being just skin, and this dyes leather, if you don't wear gloves, it will treat your skin like leather. And it normally stays on there for about 3-4 days of good heavy washing before it's finally gone. I know this because I've had black hands for 3-4 days before. That was before I figured out how to use a disposable glove. Next, we are going to measure how far that strap has to go. And I'm going to put another English point on it. No real reason other than, well, that's the tool I got, so that's what I'm going to use. So far, while making this video, if you tuned into it, how many different tools has anybody ever really seen me use so far? Not many. For the people that want to get into leatherworking, they make kits that come with all these different tools, and they want to charge you a pretty little penny for them. It's a good kit. I mean, all the tools are good quality products and eventually will be used in everything. But basically, you can get by with literally like 7 tools and spend less than $25, $30. One of those kits normally starts at about $50. And you're using not even all of it. So, now the decision has, time to make a decision has came for, should I attach the buckle and the strap now? Or should I attach the back of the belt first and then stitch all the way through? With the sewing machine that I have, I think I am going to attach the back of the belt first and then stitch through everything, because the sewing machine I have, it's more of a heavy duty leather sewing machine, and using this lightweight leather, it will do it, but it chews it up a little bit, and we don't want to do that. This is going to be a Christmas gift to a young boy, and we want it to look as good as possible. So we are going to go ahead, and I just took my gloves off and I'm getting ready to dye leather. Well, nobody ever accused me of being the brightest one in the bunch. Alright, so we're taking our strap, going to square up the end. You'll see all kinds of leather cutting knives and everything out there. They do an excellent job. They stay sharp forever. They're great. However, a utility knife with a razor blade, when it goes dull on you, switch it around to the other side. You got a brand new sharp knife and didn't have to sharpen it. You can buy a pack of 50 of them at your local hardware store or Walmart for like $4, maybe less. Saves you a lot of time. Alright, we're going to round off these corners. Actually, we're going to save that till after it's glued to round off the corners. What we're going to do is we're going to dye the back side of this now, just the back side, because the front side is going to be glued to the other piece and will never be seen, so we are not going to dye that. Oh, approaching 2 hours on the stream. As I told you folks in the beginning, leatherwork's not complicated. It's really not. It's just time consuming. Oh, and I get in a hurry sometimes too. Which is why you can see why my workbench is stained. Now, I'm not going to stain this whole belt because I'm not going to be using the whole thing. But for right now, I'm just staining it, and then we'll attach it and find out how far I got to go. Yeah, I need to go a little further than that still. Stain the sides. If you don't stain the sides before you put these belts together, you will never get them stained. They will always be a light spot there. And that is because contact cement, which is what I'm going to use to put these belts together at first, will make it to where the stain will not penetrate the leather. So now that we got that done, a little dab of water on the rag. Wipe it down. Get rid of that again. I think I'm done with the stain for now. Next, what we need to do is we're going to go ahead and glue and put these two pieces together. Now, when you're gluing leather, what you need to use is contact cement. I use weldwood contact cement. It's what I use. It's relatively inexpensive. It goes a long way, and it has a really good bond with the leather. Hey, I found my brushes. Cool. Foam brush, applies it on fast. You do not have to necessarily be fast when you're using contact cement, because you normally need to let it dry for a little bit before you put your two pieces together. Some people say wait 10-15 minutes or whatever. I put a thin enough coat on that I normally wait 2 or 3 minutes, and I have not had a single problem out of my products yet with them coming apart. Partly because the people that wait 10 minutes, they only use glue to attach two pieces together. As we're about to find out, I don't trust just glue. Who wants to trust just glue? Anything I glue, I also stitch. The glue, to me, just holds it together so the stitching does not, when I'm punching the holes or anything like that, that the stitching doesn't come undone. That's what the glue does for me. Now, I've never had a problem with this glue coming undone, but I still don't trust it by itself. Glue the two sides that you're going to put together. Like I said before, it doesn't matter what these two sides look like because they're never going to be seen. They're going to be sandwiched together. It's the outer pieces that we want to look pretty. That brush has had it. On to the next. This contact cement does eat up your brush when you're using these foam brushes. Alrighty. Now, let that piece there dry for a second. If I touch it, you see how it's getting tacky already? Contact cement by itself is not going to stick. It takes two layers. One on the piece gluing and one on the piece being glued. When I put these two together, I'm going to have a very short amount of time for any type of adjustment that I may need to make. They're on. And then what I do is I pinch the sides to make sure it stays even down both sides. And it's already starting to get really sticky. Starting to walk on me just a little bit. Get it back. Press it down. They make a nice little handy dandy little weighted roller thing. If you really want to use that, fine. It applies nice even pressure all the way across. They're not a bad tool. But on the list of importance of tools, that one right there for me probably ranks somewhere right around the bottom. Now go around. Soften up those edges, like so. Do the same thing on this side. Now, I said contact cement would keep the leather from absorbing the dye if you get it on the edge. You just see me cut those pieces off, but the glue, the contact cement, was in between the pieces, which is why I can still dye the ends because that was a fresh cut. And no contact cement overlapped. Alright, the next thing that we're going to do to make sure that this belt does not come apart is I'm going to step over here to my beast of a sewing machine. It is an old cast iron saddle sewing machine, and I have stitched up to 1 inch thick of leather on it, and it didn't even slow down going through 1 inch thick of leather. So what we're going to do is I'm going to put a stitch down these bullet loop sides first because I got a guide on there and I already got the guide set. It would help if I plugged in my sewing machine. Yeah, electronics right around water. What could go wrong? Alright, folks. Sorry for the interruption there. What had happened was, while sewing, I'd accidentally stepped back just a little bit and stepped on the surge protector, and I hit the switch and turned the switch off, cutting all power out to my building. I am sorry for the delay, but I've gotten it fixed and we are ready to move on. We now have a stitched pistol belt. What we need to do now is we need to finish this up by trimming the threads. And then using my handy dandy little fire tool called a lighter. Singe those points down. And there we go. We have the start of our pistol belt. Now, one of the options that we do got, we don't have to stitch, and with that machine right there, with how it was behaving, doing that, it does not like the cold weather. I don't feel comfortable stitching this on the buckle or the belt strap. I don't feel comfortable stitching that on using that machine anymore. So what I am going to do is, another way that these can go together is I'm just going to simply apply a couple of rivets to it. Still very strong, very durable, and will still work as intended. But with the machine acting up, I don't want to take the chance and ruin somebody's Christmas present. So we're going to do it another way. Okay, so that buckle ain't going anywhere. Now, for the strap end, we need to poke our holes for the adjustments. There you are. I am making these holes. I'm going to go a 1/2 inch. No, we'll go 3/4 of an inch for these holes. Give him a couple of adjustments that he can make. I already have his waist size, so there really isn't much in the way of adjusting that he's going to need. One of the beautiful things about custom is it already fits. Okay, now I'm going to go just a little bit decorative. I say little bit because, well, me decorating, are you sure? And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to rivet this piece onto the belt as well. I wish I had more cameras. That way you could get a better view of this over here. But I don't, so you can't. And now we'll apply all our rivets. Alright, folks. For the people that are left watching that didn't abandon me when the power went out, angle this down just a little bit. What we got here is the makings of a very fine pistol belt. That's my idea of getting decorative. It doesn't go really beyond that. But it matches up. And if you ask my humble opinion, I think this is on the borderlines of being one of the best pistol belts ever made. Just my humble opinion. Alrighty. Folks, I'm sorry I'm going to have to end the stream right here. I am going to upload another video a little bit later on that shows me making the holster. But this stream has been going on for a little over 2 hours now. And I have a couple of household responsibilities I got to tend to. Basically, my wife is cracking that whip. But later this evening, the actual holster itself, this piece, I will be making that and then attaching it on there. So thank you for staying with me. I appreciate it. If you like the stream, hit the like button. Leave a comment down in the comment section. Please subscribe. I am going to be doing many more. Any future ideas for leather projects that you guys would like to see? I do a little bit of everything from, gun belts, holsters, wallets, purses. If it's made of leather, I can pretty much make it, and I will be covering it. I also like to give how-tos, so if you're interacting with the chat, I would love to answer questions as they come in. The people that subscribe, I appreciate it. This is my very first video, so thank you guys for watching, and have a good day. Happy holidays.